The sun shone brightly. Butterflies danced in the warm breeze. This was Clover's home, a meadow full of soft grass and colorful flowers. Every morning, Clover's mama woke her up. "Time for breakfast, little one," she would say. Clover loved the sweet taste of morning dew on the grass. After breakfast, Clover played with the other lambs. They would run and leap until their legs were tired. The meadow echoed with their happy bleats. Clover wasn't like the other lambs. They liked to stay close to home. Clover loved to explore. She dreamed of seeing the world beyond the meadow. One day, Clover found a small, sparkling stone. It shimmered with rainbow colors.
"This stone is magical," she whispered, her heart beating fast.
She hid the stone under her fleece, a secret only she knew. That night, Clover couldn't sleep. She looked at the starlit sky and thought about the world beyond the meadow. She knew she had to explore. The next morning, something was wrong. The sun rose over the meadow, casting a golden hue over the grass, but an eerie silence hung in the air. The meadow was strangely quiet. Clover couldn't find any of her friends. The usual chatter and laughter were missing, replaced by an unsettling stillness.
"Where is everyone?" she bleated, her voice trembling. She wandered through the meadow, her small heart pounding with fear and confusion.
Clover saw Mama Lamb. She was crying. Tears streamed down her face and her body shook with sobs.
"A grumpkin took them," she sobbed. Her voice was filled with despair and helplessness. "He came in the night and took all the lambs to his dark cave." The grumpkin was a creature of nightmares, known for its terrifying presence and sinister deeds.
Clover was scared, but she knew she had to do something. She couldn't let fear paralyze her. Her friends needed her. She remembered the magical stone hidden in her fleece. It was a gift from her grandmother, said to possess great power.
"Don't worry, Mama," she said. Her voice was soft but filled with determination. "I will bring them back." Clover's eyes shone with resolve as she turned towards the forest.
Clover took a deep breath and started running towards the whispering forest. Each step was filled with purpose, her heart set on rescuing her friends. It was a scary place, but she was determined to save her friends. The trees loomed tall and menacing, and the mist swirled around her, but Clover pressed on, her courage unwavering. The forest was dark and gloomy, a place where shadows seemed to dance and whisper secrets. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. It was a place that would make anyone's heart race with fear. The trees were tall and thick, their branches casting long, scary shadows that seemed to reach out like ghostly fingers. Each step Clover took was met with the crunch of leaves underfoot, a sound that echoed in the stillness. Clover felt afraid, her heart pounding in her chest. But she kept going, her small hooves moving steadily forward. She knew she couldn't turn back now, not when so much was at stake. She had to be brave. The thought of her friends gave her the strength to push through her fear. She couldn't let them down, not when they were counting on her.
"I must be strong," she whispered to herself, clutching the magical stone tightly in her hoof. The stone was her only source of comfort in this dark place.
The stone glowed faintly, casting a soft light that seemed to chase away the shadows. It gave her courage, a small beacon of hope in the darkness. She knew her friends needed her. Their faces flashed in her mind, filled with fear and hope. She couldn't let them down. She had to find them and bring them back to safety. As she walked deeper into the forest, the sounds of the meadow faded away, replaced by the eerie silence of the woods. The further she went, the darker it became, until it felt like the forest was closing in around her. There were only strange whispers and rustling leaves, sounds that made her fur stand on end. It was as if the forest itself was alive, watching her every move. Clover felt a shiver run down her spine, but Clover didn't stop. She couldn't afford to. Her friends were depending on her, and she wouldn't let them down. She thought of her friends trapped in the Grumpkin's cave, their scared faces haunting her thoughts. She had to reach them before it was too late. Their scared faces gave her the strength to keep going. She couldn't let fear stop her now. She had to be brave for them. She wouldn't let them down. With a determined look on her face, Clover pressed on, her heart filled with resolve. She would find her friends and bring them back, no matter what it took. Deeper and deeper, Clover went into the forest. The air grew colder. Strange shadows danced around her.
Clover hugged the magical stone tight. "Who's there?" she bleated, her voice shaking a little.
But only the wind answered, whistling through the trees. Clover took a deep breath and kept going. Suddenly, the forest opened up. In front of her was a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood a small cottage with smoke curling from its chimney.
Clover hesitated for a moment. Was it safe to go closer? But she was tired and cold, and maybe, just maybe, someone in the cottage could help her.
Clover slowly approached the cottage. She took a deep breath and knocked timidly on the door. To her surprise, the door creaked open, as if inviting her inside. The cottage was warm and cozy. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls.
Well, hello there, little one. You look lost. What brings you to my part of the woods?
I must save them!
Clover, feeling a little braver now, told the owl about the Grumpkin and her friends. She finished, her voice filled with determination. The owl listened patiently to Clover's story. When she finished, he nodded slowly.
The Grumpkin is trouble indeed, but he is also very fond of shiny things. That stone of yours, it's quite special. I believe it can help you outsmart the Grumpkin and free your friends.
The owl told Clover his plan. It was a simple plan, but Clover knew it could work. She thanked the owl and with a newfound hope in her heart, set off towards the Grumpkin's cave. Clover found the Grumpkin's cave hidden behind a wall of thorny bushes. She had been searching for days, following the clues left by the wise old owl. The journey had been long and arduous, but Clover was determined to find the Grumpkin and rescue her friends. The thorny bushes scratched her wool, but she pushed through, driven by her unwavering resolve. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air inside the cave was cold and damp, sending shivers down her spine. Each step echoed through the cavern, amplifying her sense of trepidation. But Clover knew she had to be brave. She had come too far to turn back now. The cave was dark and damp, and it smelled like moss and something unpleasant. The walls were covered in a slimy green substance that glistened in the dim light. Clover's hooves slipped on the wet ground, but she steadied herself, determined to press on. The deeper she went, the stronger the smell became, almost making her gag. In the center of the cave, surrounded by sleeping lambs, sat the Grumpkin. The lambs were huddled together, their soft snores filling the air. Clover's heart ached at the sight of her friends, trapped in an enchanted slumber. She knew she had to act quickly before the Grumpkin woke up. He was a grumpy-looking creature, with green skin and a nose like a potato. He was snoring loudly. His snores were so loud that they echoed off the cave walls, creating a rhythmic, almost hypnotic sound. Clover watched him for a moment, trying to muster the courage to approach. She remembered the owl's advice. The Grumpkin could be reasoned with, but only if approached with caution.
"What's that?" Clover whispered to herself, her eyes widening as she noticed a faint glow coming from her satchel. She had almost forgotten about the sparkling stone the owl had given her. It was said to have magical properties, capable of breaking any enchantment.
Clover took out the sparkling stone and held it up. The stone felt warm in her hoof, and as she raised it higher, its light grew brighter. She could feel its power resonating through her, filling her with a newfound sense of hope and determination. The stone shone brightly, illuminating the cave with its rainbow colors. The once dark and foreboding cave was now bathed in a spectrum of light, revealing every nook and cranny. The sleeping lambs began to stir, their eyes fluttering open as the enchantment started to break. The Grumpkin stirred and opened one grumpy eye, his eyes fixed on the shining stone. He grumbled and shifted, clearly annoyed by the sudden brightness. Clover's heart raced as she realized she had only moments to act before he fully awoke. Clover, remembering the owl's words, quickly rolled the stone towards the cave entrance. As the stone moved, its light grew even more intense, creating a path of illumination. The Grumpkin, now fully awake, let out a roar of frustration, but it was too late. The stone's magic was already at work, dispelling the darkness and breaking the enchantment that held the lambs captive. The Grumpkin, distracted by the shiny stone, lumbered after it. He tripped over his own feet and tumbled out of the cave, landing with a loud thump. Clover quickly woke up her friends.
Follow me!
The lambs, bleating excitedly, followed her out of the cave and into the safety of the forest. They ran until they reached the familiar meadows. From that day on, Clover was known as the bravest lamb in the meadow. She had faced her fears and used her wit to save her friends, and she learned that even the smallest creature can have the biggest heart.